This video is on naming carboxylic acid derivatives. As there are multiple functional groups that are practically just modified carboxylic acids, when naming them, the only thing that changes is the suffix. So for example, acid halides, where the hydroxy group of the carboxylic acid is swapped for a halide, such as in this case, propanoic acid, we swap the hydroxide with a chloride, we drop the ic acid and replace it with eel halide. So in this case, propanoyl chloride. Notice that the O of the oic acid is important, as if we don't include that O, we end up with propanyl chloride, which of course is just a propyl group with a chloride. So that O is very important for acid halides. The next functional group is acid anhydride. Here we are only swapping the acid for anhydride. So a acid anhydride that looks like propanoic acid will be propanoic anhydride. This kind of makes sense, as the anhydride is just a dimer of two acids with the removal of one unit of water. So for example, if we take two acetic acids, we end up with acetic anhydride. Now, if you have an asymmetric acetic anhydride, don't worry about it. You won't be asked to name it. I promise you that. Now let's practice. What are the names of these following structures? You may pause now. And here are the answers. Esters are relatively easy to name, especially if you've already mastered how to name carboxylate salts. Why? Because technically an ester is a carboxylate salt with an organic substituent on the oxygen. So instead of sodium acetate, it becomes ethyl acetate. So usually if the name of your compound ends in ate, it is either an ester or a carboxylate salt. A rule of thumb when it comes to naming it is always look at what is attached to the oxygen, name that as your prefix, and name the rest of the molecule as if it was just a carboxylate salt. So here would be propyl 2-methyl pentanoate. Now you have a go. Name these esters. You may pause now. And here are the answers. Next we move on to amides. Amides are like carboxylic acids, but instead of a hydroxy group, we have an amine on the carbonyl. For these, you need to drop the ic acid and replace with an amide. So for example, acetic acid would become acetamide or acetamide. Honestly, don't worry about the pronunciation, just worry about how to spell it. If we have propanoic acid, the amide would be propanoamide. You have a go. What would you name this structure? You may pause now. You are correct. But3-enoamide. Okay, what if there are substituents on the nitrogen instead? Well, just like with amines, you have to name the substituents as prefixes, and in most cases you'll have to say N-methyl or N-ethyl to denominate the position of the substituent. So for example, N-N-dimethyl formamide looks like a formic acid. You must replace the hydroxy group with the amine, and we have two methyl groups on the amine. So this is N-N-dimethyl formamide. Finally, we have nitrile. Although it least resembles carboxylic acid, it is a carboxylic acid derivative. To name them, you just drop the ic acid and call it nitrile, kind of like with the amides. Note that the carbon of the cyanide is part of the chain in this form of naming. So for example, this butanoic acid derivative would be butanonitrile. Now you have a go. What would be the name of these nitriles? You may pause now. And here are the answers.